Hello everyone, welcome in today's webinar and thank you for joining us in today's webinar ISO 9001-2015 versus Enterprise Risk Management. My name is Tim Roma, the Marketing Supervisor at PECB, and I'm proud to present to you Eddie, who is a PECB Certified Trainer and the ISO 31000 Certified Risk Manager, who will be presenting today this topic. Eddie has about 20 years of experience in quality management systems and also 12 years of experience in enterprise risk management, who you have the chance to ask your questions, and also if you have any comments you can place it, either write it in the comment box in the right-hand control panel or raise the hand and we will let you speak up. Without further ado, I will let Eddie continue and hope you enjoy. Eddie, you may continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim, for the introduction. I'm just going to go past this. The subject is quite a contentious issue worldwide at the moment with ISO 9001, with the 2015 changes that brought up risk management as a subject within it. Now, risk management itself is very young and still a developing concept if we compare it to something like 9001 or quality management systems. That's why I thought it good to talk about 9001, some of the changes within it, and please note it's not all the changes, it's just focusing on some of the risk management requirements. Excuse me. And I'm going to cover three things today. I'm going to cover where to start, what is in and what is out, and how to win top management support. And without further ado, I'm going to go to the next slide and start talking about the changes that was brought into the 2015 version. Now, the risk concepts is woven throughout the document. It's been brought up, it's been mentioned, it's been spoken about, and something in the quality fraternity, it has not been a concept that's been utilized in the quality fraternity very much. So it is something new. In that, I have to say it is an excellent addition in my view to the standard, and it'll bring a large number of benefits to us as quality professionals. Products and services has been replaced with just, or products has been replaced with products and services. So predominantly in the olden days, it was really seen as a product quality management system for manufacturing organizations, then rather services. It now includes services as well. There's a lot more emphasis that was placed on the process approach, and it is required, and it's more prescriptive in the way they want us to define that. So in the where to start part, I'm going to start talking about that. They specifically referred to inputs as necessary to be defined, processes, the outputs, and how am I going to measure if this process is delivering. Context of the organization, they started talking about context as well. If you're familiar with ISO 31000, it is a term that's been within ISO 31000 as well, and Guide 73, where they talk about the context of the organization. And here it becomes important to understand the context of the organization when we design the QMS. And then lastly, there's a large emphasis placed on risk-based thinking within the 9001 standard. Now, if we go to the next slide, I just then went to the different clauses and I said, well, in clause 4, and by the way, it needs to be noted that the clause numbering has changed a bit, and some of the requirements have been moved around. So it'll be good for you to go and have a look at the new standard. But clause 4, the organization is required to determine the risks that can affect its ability to meet or achieve objectives. This is not just management's responsibility. We have to understand, for an organization to achieve whatever it sets out to, it consists of people, and a lot more people than just management. So this is our first challenge. Because risk management is seen as such a strategic issue, we normally keep it just in the boardrooms. It is our challenge as quality management professionals to take this down to the organization, to each and every level, to make sure that that we can encompass the whole organization throughout our risk management efforts. The key here is if we can engage the organization in totality, we can get the information that we require to do better risk management. Without that, it will always just be a report. Clause 6, the organization is required to take action to address risk and opportunities. And typically, they brought this up because risk is normally seen as a negative effect on something. And this typically comes from practices from health and safety and environmental, where we talk about hazards and aspects and impacts. So we see risk in a negative light. However, there's risk in not taking charge of opportunities as well. So a lot of emphasis is placed on risk and opportunities. So when we use the word risk, we should see it not just in a negative light, but also in a positive light, generally referred to as upside risks. So where do we start? Where do we start? Well, I just created a plan that you can utilize within your organizations, and it really starts with defining the value. If we can't sell this to management, that risk management and the approach of risk management within our organizations is going to make us better, it's not going to be successful. Our endeavors are not going to be successful. So one of the very first things is to define the value. So how does risk management actually contribute towards the organization's value and quality management system? If we can, and for each and every organization, that'll be different depending on what type of industry you're in. If you're in manufacturing and services, in supply chain, whatever that might be, your risk management practices and how you're going to define and implement that is going to be a bit different within different organizations. But it is absolutely key for us to define what value will this create to us as an organization, and then obviously for our quality management system. How can that be demonstrated and measured in terms that are meaningful? We need to define that it actually does make a difference, and we can attribute that positive organization to our risk management practices. Works. I normally say a number of standards rather than adopt just one standard, and the reason being for that is there's a number of frameworks out there that you can utilize. ISO 31000 is one of them, but there's also COSO, which is a good framework as well. Now, there's positive upsides and downsides to most frameworks, and as it's nowhere a requirement to apply a framework in its totality, I always suggest to take the good from the different frameworks and apply it within your own methods. The second thing is develop a toolbox. Now, if you're an artisan, and we are artisans in quality management systems, if you're an artisan and you don't have tools, you can't perform the work. Now, it's very easy to create a risk management framework that fits within the quality management system, but the challenge comes in creating the specific tools that's related to your industry or to your quality management system. And a very good guide I found is in ISO 31010 that can be utilized to do that. It's got a host of tools within it that's specifically applied through different parts of your risk assessment processes and risk evaluating processes. But if we don't have tools and we do not give that to the organization, we're always going to be in reactive mode, and we will never be starting to manage the organization in a responsive manner or a proactive manner. Inventory, understanding what your organization is already doing, because if you do practices like a SWOT analysis, you're already doing some part or some sort of risk management practices, and it is up to us to go and understand the practices that's within the organization and incorporate that into our endeavors. We don't want to reinvent the wheel here. We just want to make sure everybody focuses in the same direction. Secondly, additionally, having a common collective understanding concerning what risk should be about and avoiding transfer or shared. How should we manage risks within our organization? Very important. It's generally referred to as the control strategy. What are we going to do with the risk? Having that understanding within the organization and the understanding that these risks, if not managed, will have an effect on our ability to achieve our objectives. That's one of the pivot points in making risk management in our quality management systems successful. It is to drive the organization towards whatever they set out to achieve. Now, you might, at this point, you might be saying that, but we are already doing risk management within our organization, and I generally would not disagree with that. If we didn't do risk management within our management systems, in all probability it would not go well with our organizations. One of the problems we're sitting with is that we're not doing it very formal, and we're not doing it very coordinated. So it is important for us to create this inventory. Seek support. Implementing an enterprise risk management program is not the time to go solo. I've said this many a times, and don't think that one person or a department is going to run risk management, because risk management as intended within the new 9001 is rather bigger than a process. It's a philosophy. So to run that philosophy within an organization, you have to go through the organization and apply some change management principles. Otherwise, the organization is going to create this as just another process within our quality management system, which is rather not the way I would suggest you go. Once you start driving this as a compliance effort, it's going to be very difficult for you to turn it around and make it a philosophy of the organization. Keep it simple, focus on the basics, always keep the objectives the main aim. So why are we doing this? Well, to help our organization achieve its objectives or strategy. Remember to keep the message focused on the objectives, like I said, and simple process training using available tools and templates. There's a number of things available on the internet. You can gladly go and have a look at it, go and find it, but keep it simple. We can make this concept as complex as we want to, but then we're going to get the organization's reluctance to implement it, because the first thing, the resistance to change would say, the first thing, it's too complex, we don't want to engage with this. We need to create a risk management department. And a risk management department is never going to drive the philosophy in an organization. It's rather installed within people. Start small, start by focusing on the end goal, develop the implementation as manageable tasks, and build progressively. There is no big bang approach here. Within the next slide, I'm going to talk about where do we start. Quick wins. If someone sits with a problem within your organization and you are able to sort it out for them utilizing simple risk management principles, you've got a follower of the principle for life. So go and identify the quick wins, understand how you can assist in solving them quickly, and understand what's important for leadership. Delegate fixes. This is one of the biggest problems that we sit with in organizations. And it's not just an enterprise risk management problem, it's a quality management problem, environmental management problem, health and safety management problem. The words always come up, don't worry, the guys in the risk management department will sort this out for us, or the guys within the quality department will sort this out for us. The problem is that these problems reside in business, and it's got business owners. And it's the business owner's responsibility and accountability to go and rectify and manage the areas accordingly. They would be very willing to pass this on to a department. If that happens, the game is lost because you're not instilling the philosophy within the organization. You're rather creating a process, and a process lends itself towards compliance rather than utilizing it as a management practice within the organization. Report progress, show the wins, show progress. It always creates momentum in organizations. And then soft skills. I always say good risk managers are not necessarily good risk managers. They are good salespeople. Sell the enterprise risk management concept within your organization. People buy into ideas that they perceive as worthwhile to them. So show them the benefit it will bring to them. It is a benefit-driven process. It is not just another process or mandatory process that you would be required to create. It is there, the concept has been included to create value within the organization. So where do we start? Well, needless to say, at the beginning. And risk management has got different parts within it. It needs an organization, so it needs to be implemented within an organization. We need to decide what type of frameworks we're going to utilize, and I just mentioned two, ISO 31000 and COSO on the other hand, and it needs processes. So without people, processes, and a robust framework, your enterprise risk management efforts are going to be in vain. So what I've done is I just then went in no order of importance. However, the people in the organization is very important in your drive. I just went through and defined it. So it says the whole organization needs to be involved. I earlier mentioned that yes, it is fine. Management needs to buy into the concept and implement within the organization. But if we do not engage the whole organization, we're going to end up with a compliance system. And once again, it should be driven as a philosophy rather than just complying to something. Compliance costs money and necessarily do not create the value that we anticipate. Make sure risks get the necessary attention from the top. Management is the key. If they believe in it and they support it, it'll flow through the rest of the organization. Just like our quality management principles or our quality management processes, if management has not bought into it, it becomes a very hard process to drive. Incorporate all different aspects of risk, and in this case, you'll see in a couple of slides on, I talk about the different levels of risk within the organization. But create or include all the different aspects, which is your strategic, your operational, financial, health and safety, environmental, process performance. Include all of these aspects within the scope of your risk. Exclusions just means we're taking our eye off the ball. Think rather risk management than risk elimination. Now one of the biggest things, and I'm pretty sure if there's health and safety and environmental management people here, one of the biggest things of the identification and management of risk is to try and eliminate the risk, get it out. Now, in an enterprise risk management point of view, elimination is not the objective, but rather management of it. And the management of that means that we can accept the risk at a high level if the returns are high. Now, creating the value within our organizations. Now, the key for us is to take this and incorporate it into our quality management system. So which framework or which standard do I take? And all I've done is I just said, okay, so let's take the 31,000 process, which is on your left-hand side, and the COSO cube. If you haven't seen it before, it's a very well-known cube in the risk management sphere, and compare these two very briefly with one another. Now, when we talk about ISO 31,000, excuse me, the first point is establishing the context, which is just understanding the internal environment of the organization. In simpler terms, the risk assessment process in 31,000, once again on your left, is taken up in event identification, risk assessment, and risk response. On the risk management is your control strategy and your control activities. Information and communication you will find in clause 5.2 of ISO 31,000, and monitoring you will find in clause 5.6. Now, taking this into context, it is always a very interesting discussion for me when companies ask me, which one do I take? Do I take COSO or do I take ISO 31,000? And my response normally is just take anyone, but make a decision. So one of the key points here is that procrastinating about making a decision on how we're going to go and do risk management is going to create problems for you. It's going to create dissonance in the organization in going forward. So looking at processes, once again I highlighted the point. I said have a toolkit for employees. Risk management to them sounds kind of unfamiliar. It sounds very complex. So create a toolkit that they can utilize. How can they identify risks? How can they report risks? How can they see progress on risks? Evaluate all processes within the organization. It's key. I've taken that as an example in today's webinar just to show you how one can do that. Evaluate the risk of processes on other processes as well, because as we know, organizations consist of value chains, and the output of one process kicks off the input of the next part of the process until the end result is achieved. Now, if I understand the risk points between these two, I can manage these risks in a better, or these processes and risks in a better way. Evaluate. Start from the strategy, evaluate people, evaluate the processes, the plant, money, the capital, all the elements within your strategy. So the next slide of where to start is really enterprise risk management is about the enterprise, and the enterprise means anything and everything within it. And I generally split the enterprise into three levels. The first one is the strategic level, and that's going to define where we go as an organization. Do we grow? Do we acquire new companies? Do we expand on our products? What do we stand for? What is our vision? Our objectives to go and achieve that long-term, short-term, but it's really the strategic level of the organization. Now, typically organizations get stuck on this level. They never go deeper into the organization to see if the organization can actually deliver on their strategy. Now, your risk management process or implementation should definitely start at the strategic level, but you should take it through to the process level of the organization to make sure that your processes can actually deliver on your strategy, utilizing risk principles. On the information level is the information that we require and that we need to share within the organization to make better decisions. Now, if we can understand the risk in information as well, we can trust the results better when we make decisions as management within our organization. Excuse me. So according to the new 9001, 2015, they say our process approach needs to consider a couple of things, and all I've done is I said, okay, so what concept out there is available to assist us in creating processes within our organization that somehow satisfies the requirements of the standard and satisfies our requirements in terms of an organization. Now, a perfect example of that would be something like IDEF 0, and I've included an example here of how IDEF 0 process definition works like. Generally, any process needs an input. The process is normally a verb and a noun, so it is what I need to do. The controls related to it, and the controls include all the policies around it and the execution. Mechanisms might be the resources utilized to execute on this, and then the output, what is required when this process is defined. Now, if we take this principle to the definition of our processes, we would generally end up with something like this. And this is managing processes. It's about understanding the process. And what I've done is I just quickly mapped out a process in IDEF 0, and I said, okay, so what? It's a sales and marketing process. What kicks off the process? So the sales strategy kicks off the process, as you see on the left-hand side. I then took it through who's responsible for establishing new leads. Is there any systems involved with that? And highlighted that. Now, it's a very simple process to understand. It's got some hint text in it, and it's very easy to follow this process. So this typically we would have done to some degree. Some organizations do it in procedure documents or SOPs. Some organizations prefers the flowchart method utilizing IDEF 0. I personally like this one. But our challenge here now is to start thinking in a risk way. And evaluating this process, we need to understand where do we face risks within this process. Now, all I've done is I said, well, let's go through the process, understand the points of risk, and mark them up. And basically, I found 3 points of risk. The first one is initial engagement with the client. The second one is formulating an appropriate client solution. And the third one is implement the account when the new client is taken on. So at those 3 points, we could either be engaging incorrectly with the client, we could create a solution to the client that they don't require, or when we implement the client, we don't implement the client within our organization correctly. So doing a risk assessment on the process, we would understand the risks within that process. That takes me to the next slide. How do I articulate this in a risk management way? So basically, I need to understand why the process exists. Why do we have a sales process in the first place? And generally, there would be an objective somewhere in your strategy stating we have to create, sell more product, create more profitability, increase our revenue, whatever that that objective might be, it'll be in there. And that's why we have this high level process then. The next thing then would be to define how are we going to measure if this process is delivering what it's supposed to deliver? Now, I just created 3 KPIs. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. And I said, well, new sales growth by 12%, current client growth by 8%. So it means mining our current client base with 8%. Growth, and then a revenue target of a certain amount. I just utilize $5 million, whatever that might be. Then I took those three risk areas that I've identified within my process. If we go back quickly, and I've taken those 3 areas where risks could occur. Remember, the aim of a risk is what could occur, what event could occur that could stop me from achieving my objective. Now, if I apply that on a strategic level or on a process level or on an information level, the result is still the same and the definition is still the same. So I said engagement with clients not interested or qualified. So it means we're wasting time meeting with clients that will never buy from us. Providing solutions or products below set margins. So we're selling at the incorrect margins. And then thirdly, inappropriate handover to operations. So when the client is taken over, the handover that happens to the operational part of the organization is done incorrectly. Now I understand why my process exists, understand how am I going to measure it, and I understand the risks that I face. So my next step would be, so what do I do about this? And this is typically what processes do I create to control this. Now, in risk management terms, it's called a control. In quality management terms, it would be called a process definition. Now, if we take this into context, the risk 1, which is the engagement with clients, I said, well, target market is set out in sales strategy and client qualification. So I need to go and create a process, if it's not in existence, to qualify clients. Before we go and see them. Are they, would they procure from us, and can we offer a solution to them as required? The next one, providing solutions or products below set margins, all quotations and proposals based on approved pricing. So these are approved pricing model within the organization that drives that. So if that process doesn't exist, we need to go and create that process. The next thing is client handover sessions between sales and operations, meaning there's a formal handover process between the 2 parties within the organization. Now, once again, if these doesn't exist, we need action and implement these actions to get the controls going. Now, it's a very simple example, but the same principle applies. It doesn't matter what part of the organization you go and have a look at. If you have a look at design, the same process applies. If you have a look at manufacturing, logistics, imports, exports, it doesn't matter which part or which type of organization, the same type of principles applies. Now I'm just showing you to apply the principles on a process level within the organization. Remember, I showed you a triangle. There's a strategy part, there's a process part, and the information part in organizations. I'm just showing you the process part at the moment. It's a fairly simple way to go about it, but it's a very effective way so that we can understand which parts of the organization we can manage better. As we manage this better, the objective of 9001 starts being realized, and that's creating value for the client. So what is in and what is out? So one thing that we need to understand clearly is that ISO 9001 2015 version do not require any organization to wholeheartedly adopt ISO 31000. So if you were under that impression, it's not what they're saying. But they're saying your quality management system should be risk-based and should take risk into consideration. So ISO 31000 is just one way of addressing that process. It does say establish the context of the organization. So what does that mean? Well, understanding and defining the organization strategy, understanding the defining and the key processes within the organization. Now, in business process management, that is generally referred to as defining the value chain. So what creates value within our organization, what governs the organization, generally known as policies within our organization, and what supports the organization. Support processes generally would be something like HR processes, finance, quality management would be seen as that as well. It supports the organization. It does say adopt a risk approach. So what is in and out? Now you know what's in. It says it refers to ISO 31000, but this is your choice. It refers to it. It refers to the process approach, which includes a risk view. So it means they say we need to consider the risks that we face within our processes. It refers to the enterprise, which means nothing can be excluded. The whole organization is in. This for our typical quality management practitioners, this starts becoming a bit of a problem, because historically we could exclude certain parts of the organization. Now it says the whole organization, everything, because no organization exists just because of one part. So gaining support with the organization and with management to go and do this is absolutely key. So changes are never easy, but focus on the strategy of the organization. Focus on how these practices will enable the organization to achieve. Now, in saying that, our quality management professionals or practitioners needs to elevate our role within the organization a bit from running a QMS to start dabbing at making the strategy of the organization a reality, because the processes within the organization will drive the strategy. So we need to start thinking a bit more strategic than operational as well. Become part of the executive arena. And in some industries, it's quite common that the quality management people are represented on executive level, but there's definitely a whole host of different industries and organizations where it's not seen as an executive level process or executive level position. The problem is this individual is tasked to enable the organization through a whole business management system to make the strategy a reality. It is a very important task. References should be on a business management system rather than a quality management system. And if one thing I was hoping for the new release was that the word quality out of the full context of ISO 9001 would be removed, but added into clause context. So because ISO 9001 is now much more than what we typically had in the 1994 version, which was 20 elements, and everybody ran the 20 elements. It's now really starting to become this business management system rather than just a quality management system. Get quick results. People listen if they see changes, if they see improvements, quick improvements. So go and identify those quick wins and go and implement them. Show confidence and believe in the approach, and that's the last part that I'm going to end up with. If you're not confident in what the new framework will give you and what risk management will give you within the organization, rather than just don't go down to it, because it's going to show in the confidence levels. And once again, I always say people buy from people, and if you have the relationships and show the confidence and belief in enterprise risk management and in the new way quality management is approached within the 2015 version, the organization is going to believe in it. So show the confidence and believe in the approach. I'm going to end off just with a couple of credits. COSO is one. ISO definitely for some of the information that I used within my slides. PwC as well, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Six Sigma, and then IDEF I need to give credits to. This concludes my presentation for today. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for this great presentation. I believe the attendee joined this as well. We have indeed one question from Ernest. The question is, how would you know you have covered the risk that may affect your operation?
How would you know you have covered the risk if, within your operation?
Yes, how would you know you have covered the risk that may affect your operation?
That's a bit of an open-ended question, because risks will present itself, or the identification of risk is an ongoing process. So even if you go and identify risks within your organization, it's not a clear sign that you've identified. If you change your business model, your risk profile is going to change. So I guess it is the short answer to that is to understand that risk management is an ongoing process. It is not a destination. So if you define your risk profile, it's not to say it's 100% exact or 100% science. However, if you do risk management within your organization well and your operations well, it'll show in your results though.
Okay, thank you, Eddie, and I believe this was all for today. Once again, thank you very much for your time and for the presentation. I want to also thank the attendees for sparing their time out of their busy schedules and joining us today. We have recorded this webinar, and we will be uploading the recording on our YouTube channel. You may want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can see all the webinars that have been organized that you have missed, and also so many other important and informative videos that we publish. Stay updated with the other webinars on our website, and many different topics will be covered in the coming days and weeks. And if you have any comments or you have any topic that you would like to be elaborated, don't hesitate to write us or contact us at any time. We would be happy to hear from you. Thank you once again, and hope to see you in next webinars. Thank you, Edim. Bye-bye.
Thank you.